Once you've sent your profiling charts to us, we'll get the profile emailed back to you within 1 to 3 working days. The profile itself will be as an attachment to the email, and you'll need to save that and then install it onto your computer. Now this video will give you the overview of how you actually do that and how you use the profile on a Mac. For Windows it's very similar. It's just a little bit easier in Windows actually, because you can save the profile to your hard drive from your email client, and then you can right click on the profile and there's an option to install the profile. Full instructions on how to do that are on our guides and our downloads page, and you can also find it on our website. If you go to pureprofiles.com, click on using a printer profile, it's got some instructions there on how you actually install it. Now for the Mac we need to put it into one of two locations. You've got this location here which makes the profile visible for all users, or you got that location where it's only visible to the username, which is here. So if you replace that your username with the username that you use, that profile will only ever be visible to you. For most people I would say that they would probably just install it into this location. Now when you receive your profile you need to save it to your hard drive. We do recommend saving it to a different location other than these locations shown here. Mainly just so you've got a copy of it somewhere. Now, it's a good idea to back up the profile, keep it somewhere safe. Now I've got a profile already saved on my desktop. That might not be the best place for you to save it. I would certainly recommend some drive, some backup drive where you can keep the profile safe. But what would happen is that I would receive the email, I'd save the attachment, and I would just save it onto some location on some drive, or in this case my desktop. You can see there we've got the profile here. You can text the profile, it's got the ICC extension. This is for Ilford Pearl paper on an Epson printer. You see there I've actually put the media type setting in the actual file name. When you place an order for a profile, you ask for a profile file name, so it's a good idea to actually put your media type setting in within that profile file name. That will just remind you what media type setting you use, because you must use the same setting as the media type setting you used when you printed out the profiling charts. Now if I go down here, go to Finder, do a new Finder window. We need to actually get a copy of that string there. Go up to go to folder, click go. Now if I go back to this one, copy the profile and paste it into this location here. This will now save the profile, save a copy of the profile into the location that the Mac OS expects to see all the profiles. When you do this, it will ask you for your password if you've got your system set up to do that. I think by default it will always ask for your username and password for using the Mac, because you're doing you're doing a file operation on files within sort of the Mac sort of system files, so you have to be aware that you will need to put your password in. Now for actually using the profile, I'll show you how to use it with CS6, Photoshop CS6. Right, got a picture here that we want to print out. This is quite similar. Photoshop hasn't really changed. You'll find that on our downloads page we've got guides for a number of versions of software, which I'll just take you back there. If you go to downloads, we've got the step-by-step guides here. We've got the printer utility guide for actually printing the profiling charts for both Windows and Mac. We've then got installing and using profiles. Now these I'm trying to keep up to date with the latest versions of Photoshop Photoshop Elements and Lightroom. They'll give you an overall view of how to actually use the profile within that software. The following step-by-step guides, these ones down here, actually show you how to print the charts using that software, which we don't really recommend nowadays. We would prefer that the Adobe Color Printer utility is used, just because it makes life a little bit easier. There's less things to go wrong. But these guides will walk you through printing profiling charts and actually using the profile itself within the specific software. But these things don't tend to change that much. The actual setting up a profile hasn't really changed that much in Photoshop since they first started using Photoshop with color management, which I think it was back in Photoshop 6, or it may have been 5.5 actually. Right, let's expand that. Right, we've got the print menu up here in Photoshop. We've got the printer set up there. You got your print settings. I'll tend to do that last, but we come down to here into the color management. Got the document profile, that's just saying that it's a sRGB image. Got printer manager's colors. We want to change that. We want to say Photoshop manager's colors. We then got printer profile. Now down here there we go, we've got that profile that we just selected, so we select that there. We then got the rendering intent. There's two there which I would recommend using. Perceptual gives probably the best overall rendition of an image. It keeps the overall look of the image correct. It's best off using with images that have very saturated colours, because it all depends on how the Photoshop remaps the colours which aren't printable by your printer. You've basically got a gamut range of colours that can be printed in your printer. Then you've got outer gamut colours which can't be printed. They're just too saturated or so. So what the rendering intents do is figure out how to print those outer gamut colours. Now with the perceptual rendering intent, they put those outer gamut colours, they sort of squeeze them into the printable range of colours, but they do it quite gradually. So the overall look of the image stays the same, but the colours aren't quite accurate. They will be shifted somewhat. If you go to relative colorimetric, you will get more accurate colours. The outer gamut colours are squashed into a much smaller zone of printable colours, which means that more colours are actually accurate. That are printed within the printable range are actually printed as an actual colour, so they are accurate. So if you're using images without many saturated colours, then you actually get a more accurate image by using relative colorimetric. If you're just doing day-to-day sort of standard printing, perceptual would probably be the best choice as a generic sort of setting for. But each one has to be looked at on an individual basis, and then if you use soft proofing as well, that will actually help you determine which rendering intent will be best for your image. I'll go into those details in a little bit. But for here, we're going to go for the Photoshop Manager's colours, Ilford Pearl, and a perceptual rendering intent. Now we need to go into print settings, and we need to set this up as how we had it set up when we printed the profiling charts. So you go to color matching, that's disabled, so that's good. Paper handling, nothing to change on there. Cover page, nothing. Print settings. Here we need to set this to the setting that we use when we print the profiling chart, so we use semi-gloss for this one. Advanced, again this should be the same as when we printed the profiling charts. You might not notice that much difference if you use a different setting, but some printer drivers do alter the outputs somewhat between settings. So your profile is really optimized for the one that you selected when you printed the profiling charts. So if here I'll choose photo RPM, turn off high speed. Color management, that's still set to off. and that's all we need. Extension settings, fixed red eye is also off. Now, one thing I will say is that some older drivers, you might not get this. You might actually be able to select something here. If that is the case, select the Epson color controls. Don't select color sync. But when they're grayed out like that and color sync selected, that is correct. This is what I think most people will get on their drivers nowadays. Once you're happy with that, click save, and then you just click print to print the photo. Now, one feature of Photoshop and a few other software packages is soft proofing. This is where you can see the effect of the profile on the actual image without having to print the photo out. There's a few other packages that do soft proofing, but it's not that common, certainly not in the more basic packages. Things like Photoshop Elements doesn't have soft proofing. Lightroom has introduced it for version 4. We just got version 3 here that I can show you, but version 4 I believe also allows soft proofing. It just makes it very easy to be able to see the effect of the profile and the rendering intent. If you want to see it, you go into Photoshop, you go into View, you go to Proof Setup and Custom. Now here you've got your list of profiles. Now we'll choose Ilford Pill setting again, and you've then got the other options down here. You leave preserve RGB numbers off. Rendering intent you leave as you set to either perceptual or relative colorimetric. You should have simulate black ink on there. Simulate paper color. That's useful to show the dynamic range, but it can look a little bit odd because it makes the whole image starts looking a little bit washed out. That's all to do with your monitor can display a lot brighter colours, a lot brighter whites. And it's trying to sort of show you what your print will look like on the actual paper. So if you're actually comparing your paper to the screen, as well as having a calibrated monitor and not running at a high brightness, having a soft proof like this will give you your almost perfect match between the print and what you see on the screen. It can take a little while to get used to having the simulate paper color set on like that. It makes more sense when you're only seeing that picture by itself and there's no other user interface going on, no other all these coloured icons at the bottom, so it can be a bit of a distraction. So if you can view the image full screen, then that's better. You might want to just go without setting the simulate paper colour until you're used to that. But this will still show you the other options. You will still see the perceptual, you'll see the change to relative colorimetric. It's subtle, but it's noticeable. You can see, particularly down in this type of area, as a change back to relative. There's a little bit less contrast with that one. If I click off the preview, you can see what the image looks like on the screen. Click preview, you can see what it's going to look like when it's actually printed. Now you can change to other settings. Now keep the semi-gloss setting like that. If I click OK, you then got settings up on here to switch those proof colours on and off. So if I turn it off like that, you can just carry on working as normal. If you want to see what it's going to look like when it's printed, you click proof colours and you get that. You've also got gamut warning. That's going to show you sort of any colours which are out of the actual printable range for that paper and the profile that you've got for that paper. Okay, I can also show you the Lightroom. We go down here, we click on print, we go down to the bottom, we go to colour management, we've got profile on there. Now you can see that profile doesn't appear on that list, so you've got to click on other on here. This will list all your profiles. Now I've got to tick that profile, and now it will always appear on this list here. So I can select that one. Rendering intent. This one, Lightroom only limits you to the two, perceptual and relative. So click as perceptual, then we click on print, and then we go through the same thing again, color matching, making sure that's all switched off, color management, to make sure that's set to off, print settings, we set that to semi-gloss, print quality to RPM, and just be sure, make sure any automatic settings are switched off. Then we can click print. Now, I won't do that just right now. I will now show you elements as well. This is elements 10. You click on print. For this one you need to go down to more options down here. You've got color management there. You select Photoshop manages colors. You select your printer profile and you go there, and your rendering intent. Again, we got the 4 back again, so we're going to stick to perceptual, and then if you're happy with everything on there, you click on print, and again we're back into the settings again. So again, it's color matching, color management, print settings, setting that semi-gloss, RPM, and high speed off, and that's it. Yeah, it's actually a very easy process once you get used to it. The main thing is to remember to change your printer driver settings to how they were when you actually when you printed the profiling charts to begin with. Now, one thing I will say is that most printer drivers do allow you to save your current settings. Now I need to set that back to semi-gloss, that to RPM. Now I can go to save current settings as preset, and I can put into there Ilford Pearl. Now if I go to default settings, I'll change it back. I can now just go back to Ilford Pearl, and it's all set up. Color management will be off, color matching will be like that, extension settings will be switched off. It's useful to do that. We'd really recommend that you do that when you actually print the profiling charts to begin with, but you can do it anytime. It just means that you can immediately recall all your presets in one go. You don't have to play around too much in the printer driver.